Well, here we are with our new community-based podcast, 80/40 Factor. Nyna Gilpin, my right hand for years, 40. Me, unbelievable, 80. And we're talking family and family support and how you get to a pinnacle of success if you have to basically climb that ladder by yourself. So join us. It's a really interesting discussion. Each of us have had very unique childhoods and family experiences. We'll see you then. Hi, everybody. You may recognize me as the Queen of Jeans on QVC HSN, but now I'm part of a community, 80/40. Why? Because my good comrade here, who I've worked with for 15 years, just turned 40. And in a couple of weeks, I'm turning 80. And I find that on almost every subject that has to do with women, we've got a common bond, but a very different point of view. So today's subject matter is going to be living with passion, purpose, and not permission. How two generations of women can seek the same road and be totally unapologetic about it. And this is Nyna Gilpin. So we worked together forever in the fashion industry and now on social media. And just to make it perfectly clear, because I'm sure it's not, I'm the 80-year-old, she's a 40-year-old.
I'm glad you cleared that up.
Yeah, thank you. So, we grew up so differently because I grew up, in the 40s and the 50s. Women needed permission. There was no such thing as carving your own road. If you did that, you were branded as a rebel, which was not good, as an ungrateful child, which, kind of fixed the picture for me. But, I think in today's world, I would probably have been more like the perfect child. I knew exactly what I wanted to do from the time I was able to articulate it at about 3 years old. And I never wavered, but I had to leave home to do it forever. Never went back, couldn't go back. So what about you?
Well, I have a question about that. So I know that obviously you didn't have the supportive parents to, say, oh yeah, you want a career, let's do it. But what kind of pushback did you get from people your age? Did you see that did you feel like you were completely different?
They didn't have those kind of feelings. And I left a sophisticated area, which was Beverly Hills, LA. And in Beverly Hills, although we were on the poor side of Beverly Hills in an apartment, not a mansion, those people didn't work. You would never, as a girl, as a female, have had any feeling like that you wanted people to know about, unless you were from a famous family like Jamie Lee Curtis.
Right.
And your parents were movie stars and you wanted to act, and they allowed you and gave you a platform as a child actor. Otherwise, and then we moved out to Whittier, California, which was so alien. And I'm this little Jewish girl with white skin and freckles and red hair. I didn't fit in at all. And I used to think to myself all the time, you country hicks, I can't wait to break out of this prison and come back like 20 years later for a reunion. And I'll be in a mink coat and you'll all be looking like farmers.
I thought the same, but to a lesser degree. But oh God, I could not wait to get out of Daytona Beach. It was like the first chance I had, I was like, yeah, let's do it. My friend's like, let's move to Las Vegas. I'm like, let's go. I'm going. I don't know what I'm doing, but I'll go.
What did you do in Las Vegas?
I went to college and waited tables.
I waited tables too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Terrible.
I was terrible too.
People just hated me as a waitress and screamed at me all the time. But then I went to, when I came to New York, and I had to do that because nobody was going to discover me. I met Andy Warhol and the whole factory thing. I was a waitress in Max's Kansas City. And so at least it was a more sophisticated crowd of people. Right. My God. You know, I spent so much of my life trying to navigate where I really needed to be. And when I turned 60 and I invented the middle-aged jean and got it made and it sold and it took off, I realized where I was always meant to be was to be the boss, to be the center of attention, and to be viewed as a success, and most importantly, respected for my talent. My talent was everything to me. I don't know about you, but I carried around my talent like in a treasure chest my whole life, and clung to it and held it really close to me, because talent, believe it or not, in any kind of artistic profession is ephemeral, and people don't, they always say in the acting industry, as long as you're born beautiful, we can teach you to act. But if we can't make you beautiful, even if you're a great actress, so we'll choose the beauty. That was sort of how it went.
I think for me, my talent wasn't as apparent as it was for you. I always knew that I had something, but I wasn't really sure what it was. And then when I was in college for fashion, I was known, and we did like a contest where they had industry professionals come in and rate your portfolio.
Oh.
And they said that mine was the most commercially acceptable. And so one woman was from a department store, and she said, I would purchase some of your designs for my department store. It's the most commercially saleable.
And yet you walked away from the industry after seeing me have breast cancer and think to yourself, is this the life I want to live?
I still love fashion. I always have. But I was more of the business side of fashion.
Yeah.
I definitely
and the organizational side.
Exactly.
For sure. She's like a drill sergeant.
I don't know if I'd say that, but I guess everyone else would, so maybe.
Yeah.
But because of that, I have my little side business that I've started, but I wanted to do something that was a little more based on something that helped charities, because I just wanted something that made me feel good. That was the thing that I didn't like about the corporate world in fashion, was it's a little toxic, and it's very stressful, and
it doesn't breed success. That's what I don't like about it, is there are so many layers, and each layer of corporate has an agenda. They want to get ahead. They want to grab it as their idea. They want to constantly criticize you and as a talent. I avoided it for most of my career. I was an entrepreneur, a single practitioner entrepreneur. But I felt the same way when I got back from breast cancer. I got it late in life at 72. I was 74, 75 when I really walked away from it. And I thought, is this all there is? They told me my cancer was stress related. And I thought, the stress is never ending. Yeah. Like, I'm back in it. And here we are. It could have been one day, not 2 years, that I was on and off again, gone.
Yeah.
So, but for me, I had to walk away from my family and everything they represented. And it was amazing to me to come back 35, 37 years later for my father's funeral, have the entire family think I had some agenda, when in fact my name was up in every department store in America. And to hear my mother say, when someone said, aren't you proud of your daughter? She should have married a Jewish doctor. I thought, yeah, okay, this is why I was gone 37 years. I have lived a life of purpose and drive and obsession. But what I found when I walked away from fashion was that you can go up a rung in terms of your point of view about being a functioning female and say, well, yeah, I was obsessed about fashion, but you know what? If I miss fashion, I can always go shopping. What do I really love? What did I get out of building a brand? And it was uplifting and defending my generation of females who are shoved aside. So once I started looking at a point of view of what was my life really about and what did I really want to accomplish, fashion was a high rung part of that, but there was a higher rung. And that's what I pursue now
to get you.
Yeah, with bigger bigger goals. And I also think as you age, it's very important to always be challenging yourself. Otherwise, you're just going to feel like you're floating away on a strong tide. And that is what is so dangerous about retirement.
Yeah, I agree. And I think the other thing that comes to mind is all of the people that are in my life, all of my friends that maybe got married at an early age and became mothers, and their whole lives are really for
caretakers.
Exactly. Taking care of their husband, taking care of their kids. And now I feel like this shift is starting to happen with a lot of them, but I feel like even more so probably in your 50s and 60s, where you go, okay, my kids have gone, and you're looking at your relationship, you're looking at an empty home, and you're going, what now?
Who am I?
Exactly.
Now? Who am I?
Yeah.
That, I think, is a big thing with being a mother. And suddenly having that empty nest, you're always thinking about someone else, and it's someone else's activities, and you're always supporting.
Yeah.
But you're now by yourself, and maybe you never cared. You never put in the self-care you should have. But for me, I was always a boss. I was a star on my own little television show on QVC and HSN. I was a talent, the senior designer, and suddenly now you're nothing. There's nobody listening to you, no one taking orders from you, nobody respecting you. You have no place in society to move it forward. And I had to get back to work again right away. And an opportunity came out of the clear blue sky to host a podcast that was already developed. And I jumped at it. I thought, I can do this. I think I can do this. I really like it. Somewhat the same on the TV side. Different. You are creating intellectual property rather than actual goods. But in the state we're in today with tariffs and China, I mean, I don't think I'd want to be battling day after day against things that I didn't initiate. I would say that's the other thing. If you want to live a life of purpose, you are definitely somebody where control is important.
Well, I think controlling is a quality we both have, for better or for worse. But
yeah, you're really good with rounding people up and giving them, each of them, their spots, and identifying that and watching over it. It's very interesting to look back down that age tunnel, that decades tunnel, and see how we almost made it as females, and now we've slid back again. And everything that's going on is really not a huge plus for us. But I ask you, as a 40-year-old who has 40 years to get to where I am, what does 80 look like to you as in me, an aging female, or aged?
You know, not to sound cheesy, but I do feel like you've been a role model in that way, because I've never really seen myself retiring. I've never imagined a life of like not having something to do every day. So I think that is a great example for me, and I don't know exactly what it's going to look like. I don't exactly have my plans for it. Similar to you, I think that my biggest success is yet to come. with that said, I've always had the confidence to know that I was going to do something big. I just don't know what it is yet.
Yeah, I'd almost given up a million times and despaired. And even with the invention of the middle-aged gene for HSN, nobody recognized it to begin with but me.
Yeah.
I had to fight my way to get even the smallest amount of exposure for it. I would say to anybody out there, whether you're 40 or you're 80, you cannot put a stopwatch on your life. You never know when the big picture is going to break out and happen. And don't listen to other people. And recognize this. And this is something that I really didn't come to believe until the last couple of years. If people don't buy into your big plan or your big product or your big epiphany moment, they're not right and they're not wrong. They're just not meant to be with you. And don't drag those people along, at least on this part of your journey. You know, I hear the same thing all the time, which is, I don't understand. Why do you want to go on working? Just retire. Well, I didn't ask you to understand. And I will tell you that to me, the territory of 80 years old is like the difference between being on Earth and being on Mars. It is so different. And most of the advice I get are from people half my age. And once you live it, you'll get it. You can appreciate the fact that they want to be supportive, but you're not obligated to listen to them. And another thing that was in the title of this podcast, you don't need permission to be great. And chances are, if you're a person who can shed the notion of permission, you will get to be great a lot faster.
Yeah. You know, obviously, you know, my dad is one of my best friends in the world. And and he's always been super supportive. But when I wanted to go to fashion school, he thought I was insane. I went to fashion school, obviously, anyway. And then when I moved to New York, he was like, absolutely not. You are not ready. You don't know what you're going to move to New York and become a fashion designer. And I'm like, yeah, that's exactly what I'm going to do. So, you know, even having the person who I relied on to always be my support system fail me in that moment. And I still had to go, no, I know this is right for me. I know this is where I'm supposed to be. And so I did it anyway. We went through some fights, but, you know, he ends up being supportive in the long run
and
anyway.
for me, my parents were just entrenched. They were right. Even if they were wrong, they were right. And that was the end of the story. And I could not go back into that environment. And, you know, I can look back now with the luxury of time and looking back over my shoulder and think, I did it. I actually did it. And I went through a lot of battling to get to the next rung on the ladder, a lot of pressure, a lot of ups and downs, a lot of counting pennies. And that part of growing older is really luxurious. If you can look back and have very few regrets, which is probably my nature anyway. I think the most important thing to me at 80 is it's not over yet. Most people view it as you're done, step aside, be quiet, next. And I thought, there's too many of us. 51% of the population in America is over 50, and we're supposed to just shut up. The thing you have to realize, and we hope this podcast can help,
absolutely,
is what is going to be most productive for you. What is going to be the quickest road to expressing your passions, getting to really the essence of what do you want to do, seeing these years not as throwaway years, but as the most precious years. I always equate this time, especially when my heart is touched, and because I grew up on the peripheries of the music industry, designing denim for them, music is so important to me. New music, old music, there's just some of it that goes straight to your heart. I always equate it to having your taste buds heightened and having the best meal of your life. that is honestly what 80 should represent. Heightened awareness, heightened feeling. That's what growing older should be.
I feel like there's a lot of people who end up living a life of regret and resentment for things that happened earlier in their lives. What kind of advice do you think you would give
Let
to
it
them?
go. I came from a very difficult home environment, and I had two choices: either cave in to them, my mother and my father, who were immigrants who survived Hitler and Nazism, who really felt that having children was ownership, almost slaveship. I had to know when I walked out that door after a huge ass fight that throwing knives at one another, there was no going back. I just thought to myself, I'm going to wind up weighing 600 pounds. Yeah. And living underneath a mattress or something if I don't do this. Also, I had a nature where I remember from a really young age thinking to myself, every minute of this life is important. And I mean, I'm not kidding. I was probably about 5 years old when I philosophized that. And I'm going to make the most of my life. I'm going to have the most amazing, dramatic experiences. And so I was built that way. And then it was just a matter of being true to myself. And then I got over it. And then it became a success. And whoa, I got over it. But this is, as you get older, no sense dragging that stuff along with you. And woulda, shoulda, coulda, that is never going to propel you forward. Only moving forward is going to take care of what was behind you.
There's a quote in the movie 13 Going on 30 with Jennifer Garner, and she asked her mother, you know, do you have any regrets? And she said, no, if I hadn't made the mistakes that I made, I never would have learned how to make them right. And that always touched me when I heard that. I was like, oh, that's exactly how I feel without ever having been able to put it into those words.
You know, it's funny because when we were in the fashion industry together in my company, of course, I had all this experience in designing, and Nyna was heading up the whole design department, and they would want to do something. And my first reaction was, no, it's never going to sell. This is stupid waste of time and sample money. But I could see it meant so much to them. They were so excited. The fur scarf.
Yes.
That never sold.
Yes.
But you know what? I own all three colors and I do love it. But I knew it was never going to sell. And I couldn't, in any conscience, say, yeah, we're not going to do that. Because I said, look, I don't believe it's going to sell, but go ahead. I know you guys love it. They needed the lesson learned. That is really tough. If I had to say something now about my age, I would just say, and it's just a piece of advice, self-care, self-belief is key to self-confidence as you age. You don't need to listen to every doctor. And I'm in the midst of a total rediscovery of what I am now, which is an older body that needs support outside of the medical community. And I'm learning and testing. And so where you may think that this part of life is dependent on the medical community, and that's where you spend a lot of your time, or you think to yourself, I can't pursue my passions because of health issues that are like a big wall in front of me. There's a door in every wall. And it's not that I don't live with aches and pains, but I go out of my way to try and find as many alternate solutions. And you know, that's become sort of a passion too.
Yeah.
What do you think is the biggest difference between 40-year-old female and 80-year-old female?
I think I still have that sense of, oh, I've got some time.
Yeah, kick the can down the road.
I'm not going to think about that yet. I still have some time. I think that's probably the biggest difference that I can tell, obviously, between you and I is you're like, no, now. But now.
Like I only have now.
Yeah.
Right? If I'm lucky, I'll get, like my friend Iris Apfel, I'll get 23 more years, but maybe not. And so I think one of the biggest gaps from 40 to 80 is the quality of time, what it means to you.
Right.
I can't work a 15-hour day anymore.
Right.
I used to every day, 7 days a week. So I have to put more into the hours I can work, really manage my time. But that means something to all of us as a community of aging females. Time is precious. And somebody said to me, oh my God, so what do you do to kill time? You play mahjong? I'm like, why would I want to kill time? Time is my most precious commodity. I want to use time. And that's where my passion really comes into play, because now it's about legacy building and doing something even more important than inventing a middle-aged gene. And that's philosophical. That is not easy to do.
I definitely can feel the wanting to make the most of time. I mean, even though I do feel like I've got time, I don't waste a second. I touched on this a little bit the previous episode. I have a hard time with stopping working. I will work 15-hour days easily by myself in my apartment. With no problem every single day. That's normally the things my friends are like, you need to rest, take some self-love. That's a big difference. I need to focus on self-love.
I'm going to ask you a really important question. What's the difference between a 40-year-old female and an 80-year-old female? How do you think? What do you think is coming around the bend?
I think that I still have this idea in the back of my head about being married and having a partner and things like that, where I know that you definitely don't feel that way.
No, and you know, the interesting thing is we've done so many podcasts with matchmakers who were dying to fix me up with another 80-year-old guy. And my answer was always, I don't want to do that with my time. And I also feel I spent a lifetime in unsuccessful relationships.
I think that you're in a better position now to make a decision on someone that you could spend some time with, though. I do, because my last relationship, the best part of it for me was he got me to slow down and take time. So those 15, 16, 17-hour days that I work right now and I don't give myself downtime, he was forcing me to do that, and it was actually a really nice balance, as everyone talks about. But I think that you could now find someone that
we're not talking about me. We're talking about you.
Well, you brought it up, so I do think that you could find someone, but I do think I still have that in the back of my head. This idea of dating and, you know, it turning into something and finding someone to spend my downtime with. I think that is one of the biggest differences between you and I, for sure, even though it shouldn't be.
I'm not doing it. I'm not using my time. Whatever time I have left, I'm not using it that way. And one thing I would say...
Tell me there's not places you want to go where you're like, oh, I don't have anybody to go with.
Well, yeah.
So wouldn't it be nice to have some... It doesn't have to be... Nobody's going to move... I know you're not letting anybody move in here and getting married and having kids. But it would be nice for you to have a companion to go to restaurants with or go to...
Do you know, honestly, I thought a big plus for growing old was people would stop doing this. Honestly. And yet now it's just going to go on forever.
Well, that's because I feel like I'm the one that goes with you everywhere. So you need a companion.
I'll get a dog.
I'm sure pet. Mr. Fuzzy will love that.
Yeah, a pet. So I need to focus on self-love. I look at my body and I feel like every day there's like, who the fuck is that in the mirror? I think I've done a pretty good job with aging, but I don't think people understand how much you have to work at it. It is a whole separate job. Here's the deal, though, in wrapping this up. as you age, and certain things that you depended on, parts of your health, parts of your energy, parts of your family move away, whatever it is, where you feel you have no control anymore. I just say that that is a huge part of aging. Is you have to give up a certain amount of autonomy. You have to realize you have very little control, and if you want more, you're going to have to work really hard at it to regain it.
Right.
So, final thoughts. Are you unapologetic? Do you need permission? And do you live a life of passion?
I've always lived with passion. I think that's why I've skipped around and done so many things in my life, is because I was searching for that passion.
That's okay if it's that constant theme, for sure.
I think the biggest thing is realizing it's never too late. If you're still here, you've still got time.
You have a cosmic calendar. If you don't stay open to opportunity, that cosmic opportunity, it's never going to happen. You're going to close yourself off. You've got to open up your heart to let that talent out fully and make it incendiary and explosive and important. And opening up your heart is the hardest thing ever, because you could have a totally open heart and get rejected a million times and have that heart broken a million times. But when I learned how to do that and I started living that way, everything changed. Stairway to heaven, baby.
That's gonna have to be a whole nother conversation of opening up your heart, going after opportunities. I think that's huge, is looking for opportunities and going after them.
For sure. It's recognizing miracles.
Yep.
When in an age when no one believes in miracles.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's a great note to close on.
Yeah. And so, my fellow females, until the next time, join us and let's form a community with the 80-40 factor. Well, we hope you enjoyed it. We hope you related to it, and we definitely hope it helps you find your way. And we'll see you for the next 80-40 factor.